I moved into the apartment on a Thursday afternoon with nothing but a mattress, a coffee table, and 2 duffel bags full of clothes. It was the cheapest place I could find within city limits, and the kind of building that had a permanent smell, like someone had boiled cabbage in the hallway decades ago, and the scent just decided to live here rent-free. My new landlord, a wiry man with a lazy eye named Gary, didn't bother giving me much of a tour. He just handed me a set of tarnished brass keys and told me not to go poking around in other people's business, because the tenants here valued their privacy. I didn't think much of it at the time. The apartment itself was basic. A narrow kitchen, a cramped living room, and a long hallway that ran from the front door to the bedroom. The bedroom door was at the very end, with the hallway light flickering in that irritating horror movie way. The first night I was too tired from hauling boxes and rearranging furniture to notice much. I went to bed around midnight, left my phone on the nightstand and was out cold in minutes. At some point I woke up without knowing why. No noise, no dream. I just opened my eyes and felt instantly alert. The red glow of my alarm clock read 2:14 a.m. That's when I saw him. At the far end of the hallway, just beyond the faint light bleeding in from the kitchen, there was a man. Tall, easily over 6 feet, wearing what looked like a black coat that hung down to his knees. His face was shadowed, not because the hallway was dark, but like something about him swallowed the light. I couldn't see his features at all, just the suggestion of eyes catching the faintest glint. He didn't move. He just stood there, facing me, completely still. I blinked hard, convinced it was a trick of my half-asleep brain. But when my eyes opened again, he was still there. My heart started to race. I reached for my phone, but the moment my hand moved, my vision seemed to twitch, like a frame had been cut out of reality. Suddenly, the hallway was empty. I sat there for a long time, clutching my phone, trying to convince myself it was a dream. The next day, I shrugged it off, went to work, and didn't think about it until the second night. Again, I woke up at 2:14 a.m. Again, I saw him. Same position, same height, same utter stillness. This time, though, his head tilted slightly, like he was acknowledging me. My throat tightened and my skin crawled. I whispered hello without thinking. His head straightened instantly, like the motion had been reversed. Then nothing. I stayed awake until morning. Night 3, I locked the bedroom door before bed. I even pushed my coffee table in front of it, which felt ridiculous, but I needed the comfort of some kind of barrier. Sure enough, 2:14 a.m. came, and I woke to the sound of the hallway light flickering. I couldn't see him directly from the bed with the door closed, but something in me knew he was there. The air felt charged the way it does before a lightning strike. And then, 2 slow, deliberate knocks on the bedroom door. I froze. My phone was in my hand, but I didn't call anyone. The knocks didn't repeat. When I worked up the courage to check, the hallway was empty, the flickering light steady again. I told myself I was done. I'd sleep somewhere else, crash at a friend's place. But the 4th night, something happened that made me realize this wasn't about me seeing it. This was about him seeing me. I didn't wake up at 2:14 a.m. Instead, I woke up in the morning, feeling oddly relieved. That relief lasted until I opened my bedroom door and saw something new at the far end of the hallway. The man was gone, but on the wall, scrawled in something dark, were 3 words in shaky, uneven letters. I see you. That night I decided I wasn't going to sleep. I didn't tell anyone at work about what I had seen because, honestly, how do you explain that without sounding insane? I just told them I wasn't feeling well and left it at that. When I got home, I made myself a pot of coffee and sat in the living room, positioned so I could see the hallway from where I was on the couch. My plan was simple. Stay awake until 2:14 and see what happened. Maybe it was all just in my head. Maybe I was sleepwalking or half dreaming. I even thought about setting up my phone to record, but a part of me didn't want evidence. I think I was scared of proving it was real. The building was quiet, eerily quiet, just the occasional groan of pipes and the faint hum of the fridge. I glanced at the clock. 2 a.m. My stomach was in knots. I stared into that hallway, the dim yellow glow from the single ceiling bulb casting shadows on the cracked walls. At 2:14 on the dot, there he was. I didn't see him arrive. It was like he had always been there, and my eyes just adjusted to notice him. Same height, same stillness, same faceless blackness where his head should have been. I felt the hairs on my arms stand up. He didn't move, but I could feel this pressure, like a weight in the air, pressing against me. I wanted to stand, to confront him, but my body wouldn't cooperate. I just sat there frozen, staring. Then I realized something. He was closer. Not by much, maybe a foot closer than the night before. But it was enough for my brain to scream at me that this wasn't just imagination. He was getting nearer. My breath caught in my throat. I forced myself to blink, to move, to do something. But by the time I snapped out of it, the clock read 2:15 and the hallway was empty again. I didn't sleep after that. The next day I seriously considered breaking my lease. But the truth was, I didn't have the money to move. This place was dirt cheap, and I was barely keeping afloat as it was. I thought about crashing at a friend's place, but that felt cowardly. Instead, I convinced myself I just needed more information. That night, I set my phone camera on a chair facing the hallway, hit record, and waited. I sat on the couch again, coffee in hand, eyes glued to the shadows. My heart pounded harder as the clock approached 2:14. When the minutes struck, he was there again, and I swear to you, he was another foot closer. I could almost make out the edges of a mouth now, like the blackness was peeling away to reveal something beneath. My phone was recording, and I thought, finally, I'll have proof. But then my phone screen went black, like it had died. I knew I'd charged it, but it was dead anyway. The man in the hall tilted his head slightly like he knew what I had tried to do. My throat was dry, my hands shaking. 2:15 came, and he was gone. This time, I grabbed my phone, still dead, and noticed it felt warm, like it had been overheated. The next morning, it powered on fine, but the recording was gone. I didn't delete it, it was just gone. Night after night, this went on, each time the man in the hall getting closer. 4 feet away, 3, 2. Every time I tried to record, the footage would vanish or the phone would die. I bought a cheap camcorder, same thing happened. Electronics just wouldn't work at 2:14 a.m. in that hallway. It was like he knew. And with every night, it was getting harder to breathe when he appeared, like the air got heavier the closer he came. By the 6th night, he was standing just a few feet from my bedroom door. I could see his hands now, long skeletal fingers that twitched slightly, like he was barely restraining himself from using them. I couldn't take it anymore. I decided I would sleep in the living room that night, lock the bedroom door, and keep every light in the apartment on. But that night, 2:14 came and the lights flickered. The hallway bulb went out completely, plunging it into black. I could see the outline of him even in the dark. Impossibly tall now, like he had grown. My chest was tight, my vision narrowing. Then, footsteps, soft, slow, deliberate. For the first time, he was moving toward me while I was still awake. I wanted to run, but my legs felt like concrete. The steps stopped halfway, and I realized he was waiting for something. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. And then, just as the clock ticked to 2:15, he turned and vanished into the darkness like he'd been sucked away. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the sound I heard as he disappeared. My own voice whispering from the hallway, "See you tomorrow." That night, I didn't even try to sleep. I kept the lights on, the blinds drawn, and the baseball bat lying across my lap. I'd called in sick to work and spent most of the day pacing my apartment, every creak in the building making my skin tight. The thing is, I couldn't tell if I was more afraid of him actually being there or of him not showing up at all. If he was there, at least I could see him, measure the distance, gauge my timeline. If he wasn't, it meant he might have changed the rules. I sat there in the chair facing the hallway, my phone in one hand, the bat in the other, eyes locked on the open bedroom door. 1:55 a.m. rolled around and my heart rate spiked. I tried calling the landlord again, Voicemail. I thought about calling the cops, but I already knew how that would go. A man in your hallway, inside your locked apartment, who disappears before we arrive. They'd think I was crazy. 2:13 came. I held my breath. I swear, the air felt like it thickened. The light above me buzzed like it was struggling to stay alive. And then, just as the minute turned to 2:14, there he was. Taller than before, or maybe it was the way he stood. His head was tilted slightly now, like he was studying. That black void where his face should be didn't make sense. It wasn't just shadows. It was absence. My eyes burned looking at it, like my brain was refusing to process what it was seeing. He was closer, not by much, maybe a foot, but I could tell. His arms hung too long, fingertips brushing the floor. I gripped the bat so hard my knuckles ached. "What do you want?" I forced the words out, my voice cracking. No answer. He didn't move, didn't blink, just stood there, head tilted. After what felt like an hour, I blinked, and he was gone. Just gone. I thought maybe I'd imagined it, but the smell in the hallway, like damp concrete and rot, was still there. I didn't sleep, couldn't. The next night I tried something different. I placed my phone at the end of the hall, recording video toward where he always appeared. I locked myself in the bedroom with the bat and sat on the bed, staring at the door. 2:14 came and went. Nothing. Not even the smell. I almost laughed, thinking maybe it was over. But then, 3:07 a.m., my bedroom door creaked open. My stomach dropped. I'd locked it. I know I'd locked it. I raised the bat, my hands shaking so bad I could barely keep it steady. And then I saw him, in my room now, by the foot of my bed. He was hunched to fit beneath the ceiling, his head tilting the opposite way now. That void where a face should be was maybe 2 feet from mine. I don't know if it was the light or my brain breaking, but I swear I saw movement inside that darkness, like something shifting just beyond the veil. I screamed. I don't even remember deciding to. The lights flickered, and in the half second of darkness, he was gone. I didn't wait. I grabbed my bag, keys, and bolted out of the building. I drove to a motel 2 towns over, leaving my phone and everything else behind. When I came back the next day to grab my stuff, the landlord was waiting outside. He looked pale, shaken. He said, "I told you to keep that door locked at night." I told him I had. He just stared at me and said, "Not your door." And before I could ask what he meant, he turned and walked away. That night, I didn't go back. But when I checked my phone, the one I'd left in the hallway, the video file was still there. It showed nothing at 2:14, but at 3:07 the camera glitched, and for a single frame, you could see him crouched halfway down the hall, his head turned toward the lens. And the worst part? His arm was reaching out toward the phone, fingers extended, like he was about to grab it. I couldn't tell if the darkness was thicker tonight or if my eyes were simply struggling to keep up. But as soon as I blinked and my vision adjusted, I saw him. No longer a silhouette, no longer a vague shadow at the far end of the hall. The man was close, far closer than he had any right to be, without me hearing him move. He stood maybe 6 feet away, right in front of my bedroom doorway, the light from the street barely catching his features, or what should have been features. His face was an uncanny blur, like I was looking at it through a wet pane of glass. I felt my knees locked, my entire body refusing to obey the screaming in my head, telling me to shut the door, lock it, throw something heavy against it, anything to keep him from getting in. But I didn't move, and he didn't move either. It was like we were locked in some kind of invisible staring contest, though I couldn't actually see his eyes. And then I realized something. His chest wasn't moving. He wasn't breathing. Or if he was, the rhythm was so wrong, my brain refused to recognize it as human. The seconds dragged into minutes, the minutes into something far worse. At some point, I realized my phone was still in my hand, but I didn't dare look away from him to call anyone. I thought of bolting for the window, but the idea of turning my back to him made bile rise in my throat. Then, as if he'd heard the thought in my head, he spoke. The voice was low and raspy, almost like two voices trying to speak at once, overlapping in a way that made my skin feel like it was being unzipped from the inside. "It's too late for that," he said. The words hit me in a way no sound ever has, like they bypassed my ears entirely and went straight into my skull. My legs buckled, and I caught myself on the doorframe, which is when I realized something even worse. He was closer, just inches from me now. I hadn't seen him move. I hadn't even blinked. I stumbled backward into the bedroom, slamming the door so hard the old frame rattled. I threw my dresser in front of it, then my desk, then grabbed the baseball bat from under the bed. I stood there, shaking so hard the bat clattered against the floorboards. No footsteps, no banging, just silence. I held that position until my calves burned and my shoulders ached, waiting for the sound of the dresser being shoved aside. It never came. Eventually, exhaustion got the better of me, and I slid down against the wall, the bat still in my hand. I don't remember falling asleep, but I woke up to daylight spilling through the blinds. My first thought was that it had all been some elaborate nightmare, but when I looked at the dresser, I saw it. Deep, vertical grooves carved into the wood, like something had dragged long, sharp fingers across it. I left that day, packed what I could carry, and didn't even bother telling the landlord why. I didn't care about breaking the lease or losing the deposit. I moved into a friend's spare room 2 towns over, thinking distance would be enough. For a while it was. I started sleeping again, eating again, almost convincing myself that maybe the building had just done something to my mind. But last night at exactly 2:14 a.m., I woke up. I knew before my eyes opened that I wasn't alone. The air in the room was heavy, oppressive, every instinct in me screaming not to look. But I did. And there he was, standing at the foot of my bed, his head tilted unnaturally to one side, that same blurred face hovering over me. Only this time, there was no hall between us, no doorway, no escape. He leaned closer, until the cold of his breath washed over my skin, and in that doubled, impossible voice, he whispered, "Told you I'd get here."
If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe for more horror tales.